Yes. You don't have time. They do. Oh, he does? Yeah. Hi, good afternoon.
Hello.
My name is Jasmine Henry. I am the We Are Greenwood Program Director. Thank you for attending this Lunch and Learn with me. I am going to introduce our two main speakers today. The first is attorney Demario Solomon Sims. He's the managing partner of Solomon Sims Law and founder of Justice for Greenwood. And then we have Ron Graham, renowned Oklahoma Dawes genealogist, chairman of the Muscogee Creek Freedman Coalition, Okmulgee, Oklahoma. Please give a round of applause for both of them.
All right, good afternoon. It's good to see all of you. But I want to first, let's give it up for Jasmine Henry. She organizes the entire event.
Happy birthday.
Jasmine is our We Are Greenwood director. She started back in November, moved here from Texas. She's been doing a fantastic job. But my entire Justice for Greenwood team, I don't see anybody else in here, but just give it up to them. They've done a fantastic job on this event. I'm so excited to be here. Today is my birthday.
Happy birthday.
I turned 48 years old. And, you know, we've been doing this genealogy work through Justice for Greenwood for the last 3 years. And we've been so excited because we have about 1,000 or so self-described descendants in our network. And then as they go through the program, we have over 100, almost 200 people that's either already chronicled completely or almost chronicled. So we do this work on a rolling basis, 365 days a year. But this is our first actual event that's open to the public that we can really give this gift to all of you. And so today, in this particular session, I know you've all had access to our tremendous genealogists, Angela Walter Raji, Nikita Smith, and of course, Ron Graham, who's presenting with me today. So what we're going to talk about is going to show my lineage on my father's side, which is where my Black Creek or my Creek Indian heritage comes in. I'm so excited about this because, you know, growing up, my father would come get me for visitation and we'd be hanging out. And he would be telling me these stories about our Creek heritage and how we came on the Trail of Tears and how we had a chief in our family named Cal Tom. And he did all this stuff. And I would always be thinking, man, you don't have to lie to kick it. I didn't believe it at all. I didn't believe it make any sense to me. I'm like, well, we got chiefs. Why am I over here with no car? But anyway, that's a whole other story. But it was amazing when I went to the University of Oklahoma and learned about this. I learned about myself from a professor in the classroom who started first talking about Greenwood. And that's how I learned about Greenwood. And then about a year or so later, I met a woman who came in and she looked at me and she said, "You're a Simmons." I said, "No, my last name is Solomon." She's like, "No, I can look at you. Your people's from Muscogee. You're a Simmons." And I was like, "Well, no," because I didn't know any of that. And she said, "Well, do you know Johnny Mae Simmons? No, Johnny Mae Austin?" She said, "Do you know Johnny Mae Simmons?" And I said, "No, but my grandmother's name is Johnny Mae Austin." She said, "Oh, Simmons is her maiden name." And it was from that, her talking to me. And then I called my grandmother and she was telling me about it. And then I learned, and I met a man by the name of Don Simmons. And Don Simmons lived in Muscogee. And he called me. And he said, "Hey, I'd like to meet you. I didn't know you existed." And I had a speech in Tahlequah, which is very close to Muscogee for those who don't know. And I had a speech coming up like in a couple of weeks. And I said, "Well, I will do the speech and then I'll come through Muscogee and I'll meet you. And then I'll head on back to Norman." I went through Muscogee. I met Uncle Don. He exposed me to this book called Staking the Claim, the Jake Simmons Jr. and the Making of an African-American Oil Dynasty, which was his father, which is my great uncle. And Uncle Don and I talked all night. I just stayed the whole night, literally did not go to sleep. And from there, that was in fall of 1999. And ever since that time, I've been obsessed with genealogy and our history and just trying to give that gift to other people. And so for today on my birthday, to give you all the gift of genealogy is amazing. And my guy, Ron, come on up here, Ron. Ron Graham, Give Ron a big round of applause. I actually met Ron while I was in law school in 2001. And he came to University of Oklahoma, and he was giving a seminar about this very issue. And then Ron became my client in 2004. And I've been representing Ron since that time as we've been fighting the Creek Nation to get citizenship for Creek, so-called Creek Freedmen, whose rights are being violated by the Treaty of 1866, Article 2. In this picture right here, Ron, as we did our genealogy, this is a picture of all my great uncles and aunties, all these Black Creeks here. And these people, as you can see, from all different hues, different colors, different looks, all these people have the same mother and father, and all these people are part of my genealogy. And so what Ron is going to run through is to show you how this is real, the things that you're learning today, and how it links up. Ron is going to go through my genealogy on my father's side and link it back from my great, 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 great grandparents all the way down to me. Go ahead, Ron.
All right, thank you. How y'all doing today?
All
All right, let's go. Okay, you got who is?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is my great-great-grandfather, Jake Simmons Sr., the father of this guy on this front of this book. This is my great-great-grandmother, Rose Simmons. And then that's one of their daughters that was on the picture that you saw earlier. But these are the individuals that are already actually enrolled on the Creek Dawes Road.
All right, now let's roll. We're in my courts right now. This is a pedigree chart. You all should have gotten one earlier today. If you hadn't, there's still a few of them right here. They were my handouts or the handouts. This is the Mario right here. The pedigree chart is the best thing you can do. I've seen a lot of people, they come to me and they have names written all over the place. Okay, first you want to do this, a pedigree chart. Starting with yourself, go forward. We're going to deal with his paternal side, meaning his father's side, right here. This is what a role, then his grandmother, right here, Johnny Mae Simmons, okay? And it's documentation. You got to get the documentation through this pedigree chart, okay? Later, if you want to know the siblings and where they're at and what they do, you can. But first of all, you got to do this right here. So from there, you go to John Simmons, John W. Simmons. This is his roll number right here. He was down as a Creek Freedman, okay? From there, you go to Jacob Simmons and Rose Simmons. And here are the documentations we use, okay? Oh, this is John Simmons, starting from John Simmons. There were so many generations, I couldn't put it on one pedigree chart. So I have to use two of them. But this is what we're going to demonstrate right now through the Dawes rolls.
And this, the woman I showed you earlier, my great-grandmother, my great-great-grandmother, Rose Simmons. Yeah, go back. Yeah. Here she is right here, Rose Simmons. And then that was Jacob Simmons Sr., the picture that I showed you. So there they are right there on the document.
It's well documented, folks. Okay. Remember I talked about earlier, 40 acres and a mule? Again, 160 acres. If you received a roll number, you received 160 acres when you are a member of the Creek Nation, okay? But if you were given a roll number after that, you probably didn't get any land, didn't? Because it was reopened in 1914. That's something else. But you can see there, right here is a square mile. That's 4 siblings laying right there. This other one right here, that's another square mile. 2 square miles of land received from the Creek Nation, from the government that gave it to the Creek Nation. Okay. Here's John Simmons. Let's do this. John is down here, line number 10, his roll number, 1667. Again, a roll number is equivalent to a social security number. I tell people this is the actual social security number. They just call them roll numbers, okay? John, this is John's roll number. He's 4 months old at the time of enrollment, okay? These are his siblings right here. You can see their age. But so John's parents is up here because he is the son of Jacob Simmons, who is Jake Simmons, correct?
Yeah.
And Rose Simmons. And this is their roll number right here. This is a lot of information that you could do your genealogy off of. Okay? Okay, next. Okay, what's the back? Where's the back page to that? Okay, there should be a back page to that. This is what I've got for you. Okay, well, there's a back page to Jacob Simmons and Rose Simmons that shows you more information that you can go to. Go. Okay, that's the back page. The back page has got Jim Simmons. He was dead at the time of enrollment, so he did not get a roll number. If they were deceased, you did not get a roll number. But he was actually Cherokee. Cherokee. And this is his wife. His mother, Lucy Crossland. And at the time, she was living, so she may have gotten a roll number. Let's see. Okay, that is roll. That's their land. Okay, that's the back. That's Lucy Crossland was John Simmons' grandmother. So she had, at that time, she had a roll number right here. This is her roll number. Again, for the Creek Nation, you can read all of this. There's more information that you can look up to. But on all the census cards like that, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Seminole, you can read this information that's in there. See what more you can do research from.
Ron, let's talk about what these things mean up here at the top. You know, to Lucy Crossland.
Okay, Lucy Crossland.
So this is the grandmother of my great-grandfather.
Yes.
This is John Simmons' grandmother.
Uh-huh.
What does it mean when it says year? Obviously, she was 51. She's a female. What does the year 1895 mean?
Okay, 1895 means that the year, there was a census in the Creek Nation in 1895, or a roll that they used. And she was in Arkansas town, tribal town. There was 3 tribal towns in the Creek Nation. Arkansas, not the state of Arkansas, just a little area they call Arkansas town, tribal town, or district for the Creek Nation. It was 3 tribal towns for the
Creek Nation
Freedman Road. You had Arkansas, North Fork, and Canadian. The ones I showed you this morning. Okay? But those, and then she was on page, roll number, what is it?
538.
538. 538. There's a lot of research that you can do with all this information. You can go back and do all of that.
So, but Ron, before we leave her, so she was freeborn.
She was freeborn.
Right.
This is significant
Yeah.
meaning she was freeborn. But let's go back and look at her age. She was 51. And what year was she 51? This date of enrollment was back in 1899. So that tells me she was born in what, 1848.
Now, why is that significant to say she's freeborn? Because if she's born, remember, the Creek Nation enslaved Creeks of African descent until 1866. She's born in 1849. She's freeborn. How is she freeborn? Well, she's freeborn, and we continue to look at it on the other side of her roll. Her father was a guy by the name of Moses Perryman, a Creek Indian. So she was not, she was already a citizen of the nation. The treaty didn't make her a citizen of the nation. So that's for a lot of us who are so-called Creek freedmen, who were already citizens before the treaty gave citizenship rights. And this is a great example of it. She was a citizen at the time of her birth in 1840. That's 20-something years before the Article 2 of the Treaty of 1866. So not only are they discriminating against Creek freedmen pursuant to the treaty, they're totally erasing people's actual heritage. And another thing that you'll see on these rolls and in genealogy and overall, she has different names. She's also known as Lucy Marshall. She's also known as Perryman because her father was Moses Perryman. And so they would use that against us also at the Creek Nation. But as you're doing your genealogy, you got to understand that those different names can show up, and it can also be different spelling. I mean, when she's born, she has an Indian name, really. This name has been, so they translation and all of that goes with it.
I want to point out something else.
No, please.
Number one, on Dunn Road. The Dunn Road is a road right after the Civil War, made by J.W. Dunn, a man made by J.W. Dunn, a census for all the citizens in the Creek Nation, not just Freedman. All in my research, all the citizens of the Creek Nation. Okay, and on that road, she had this number. That she had a number already, but that number followed her. It's a trail. It's a connection to all these things. Okay, and the Creek Nation it does it best because when they made that J.W. Dunn roll, it was perfect.
Yeah, that's the first next one. Ron, this is going to be the back of her Lucy Crossland.
Okay, I want you all to read that line 1. I showed you all how to read. Her dad was named Moses Perryman, but he was dead at the time. But what was he? It described it right here. There you go. There go the Indian blood. But since he was dead, yeah. No, sorry, he didn't get. If you were deceased, you didn't get one. And her mother was Katie Harrison. She was in Arkansas town. Now look at this. But look, it says mother's owner, Moses Perryman. Are they talking about this Moses Perryman? I believe they are, because in my research, it shows where the slave owner had kids by this slave. Okay, so the documents are there, y'all. They're there. Just read them and let it follow you directly where you need to go.
And on the Perryman family, any of you guys went over in the Utica Square area and you drove down the street and there's a cemetery there? That's the Perryman Cemetery. So when you go in that Perryman Cemetery, there are a lot of black Perrymans in there. And I like to ride past and say, they're my people over there. Now, there is a Moses Perryman in that cemetery, but he's not this Moses Perryman. One of the things that they did, and they recycle names, which we do a lot in our community and our families also. But some of the other Perrymans that I know Ron is going to show if we have time are buried in that particular cemetery. And if you go on down the street right there at 41st in Utica, there is a plaque there talks about Josiah Perryman. He's the first postmaster of Tulsa. This is the same Perryman family. The Perrymans are considered the founders of Tulsa. And this is the Perryman family that we're talking about.
Can I add something? There's a Perryman on the Creek Council back in the 1800s that I saw down in Okmulgee.
Ron's going to talk all about Legacy
Okay,
Perryman,
well,
who was the
there's a
principal
Perryman.
chief that they called was virtually a Negro.
All the documents are out there. We just got to uncover it. We got to really search it. This is her land, Lucy Crossland, 160 acres. Talked about that this morning. And everybody that's right here, 160 acres. They all, yes.
How did you find that record that showed her on the road?
If we could just get through the program, we definitely
okay.
want to answer that question. It's very, very important.
Yes. Okay. Oh, this is on his maternal side. Linda.
No, this is Cal. This is coming. This is
Off of Calton right here.
Cal Tom.
Okay. Who I want to focus on is Linda Jefferson. This is the wife of John Jefferson. At that time, she's 56 years old. So if you go down there, you can see what year she was, the date of enrollment. So if she was 56, subtract that from 1898, that she would have been born like in 1952. 1852. Thank you. 1852. Again, there's a lot of information. Look what tribal town he was from. Muscogee. I talked about that a little bit this morning. Okay. But it says number 2. She's on number 2. She's on the roll as Dunn roll as Linda, on Dunn roll as Linda Jefferson, another role. But there's a lot of information you can do.
Go ahead, Ron. Go ahead. This stuff is so fascinating.
It
Now, remember
is.
what Ron said. There's 3
town.
tribal towns for so-called Creeks of African descent. Canadian, Norfolk, and Arkansas. But what town is he from?
Tuskegee.
So this is considered a traditional
That's it.
Creek tribal town.
That's it.
So then you say, well, why is he on the Creek Freedman Road? Because the Creek Freedman Road was only supposed to be for the people that was in those 3 black tribal towns. But why was people like this person, who's clearly from Tuskegee, put on the Creek Freedman Road? The more people they could put on the Creek Freedman Road, the easier they could get your land.
That's it.
Because you had no land protections from the federal
That's
government.
it.
So they wanted as many people on the Freedman Road as possible. So then they can come and get your land. Remember, these people own land for hundreds, thousands of years with no individual land ownership. Land was owned in common. So once they gave individual land ownership, a lot of people didn't understand the meaning of what that meant, the significance of owning 160 acres of land, because that hadn't been their experience. But see, if you're on the Freedman Road, there was no federal protections. And so Freedman land was taken rampantly, consistently, and constantly from this Freedman Road. And another thing, they used what's called the hypro-descent rule. You know what that means? 1 drop of black blood makes you right. That was the law at the time. You heard of the Plessy versus Ferguson case. 1 drop of black blood made you black. So these United States clerks, because it was not the Creek Nation that created these roads, this Dawes Road. This was the United States clerks. So they were utilizing, if you look black, you have 1 drop of black blood, they want to put you on the Freedman Road. And the many people we can put on the Freedman Road, the better for us, so we can get the land easier.
Okay. Okay, this is the back card for.
Go back. You got trick. You got to itch your fingers, man.
Yeah. Okay, this is the back. I want this is significant stuff. John Jefferson's parents is Jefferson Randall and Betsy Randall, but this the man right here, you all. I've heard about this man for a long time, decades, because of the research. But this is Cal Tom. This is how the counselor here is connected to Cal Tom. That pedigree chart we used earlier. Here's the right here. But he was dead at the time of enrollment, so he did not have a roll number. This is a tornado.
Hey, that happened on a plane yesterday. Like, they won't hear that on a plane.
Is mine going on?
All right. All right.
Okay, y'all ready?
License averted.
But again, I want y'all to look on these documents. John Jefferson's dad, Jefferson Randall, died during the war. What war? Civil War. Okay, just in these documents, we're back to the Civil War again. Betsy Randall dead, but look at what tribal town she was in. Tuskegee Tribal Road. She was an actual. I have documents where these people are testifying saying, I mean, I'm a Tuskegee Indian. I have the documents. The documents are there, Counselor.
Now, that's so important, too, when he said Tuskegee Indian. Another thing about the Creek Nation, the Creek Nation was not one nation.
No.
The Creek Nation was a confederacy of states, just like the United States of America. So if you think about Texas versus Oklahoma, that's how, when she said I'm a Tuskegee Indian, that was a whole tribal, a whole people group themselves. They came together as a confederacy, and what happened, the federal government wanted to continue to squash people together because it's easier to control one entity and say, oh, this is your chief. And we're going to deal with this one chief that speaks for all of y'all. But that's not how they traditionally live. That's what's so evil about what the Creek Nation is doing today, as they're just trying to keep people out when they were always a confederacy of different people groups. And they have these documents too. They know this information also. So again, you ask yourself, you got another woman that's on the Tuskegee Road, and then she's put on the Freedman Road, and then Ron's going to show you that some of her children was put on as Freedman, and some of her children was put on as by blood.
Oh,
Same mother, same father.
Okay, that is the land of John Jefferson. He didn't quite own 160 acres. That right there belonged, that looked like about 20 acres, I believe. So he's got another 20 acres somewhere else. You got equivalent of 160 acres in the Creek Nation. They sometimes split it. You may have 80 acres here, 80 acres there, 120 acres here. 40 acres there. So that's how they did. Okay.
Keep going. Keep going. Wow.
Yeah, okay. This is the 1860 census.
U.S. Census.
US 1860. Okay. Now we were still slaves, correct? In our ancestors. 1860. I want you to read some at the top. The free inhabitants. So this telling me John, Belinda, all the Jeffersons, their names weren't even Jeffersons at that time. They didn't even have a last. I have furthermore research than this, y'all. Okay, so I'm giving y'all a synopsis of what's going on. But they down on the free inhabitants census. Okay, where's this at? It's at the Creek Nation. Where is that at? Yeah, there you go. The Creek Nation. They stayed at the post office near the post office called Miko. Miko is in another area of the Creek Nation. I don't have time for that. But they're on the 1860 free inhabitants roll.
Again, what's the significance of this? The Treaty of 1866, they were already free inhabitants before the treaty. They were already citizens before the treaty. Here's the documentation, but the Creek Nation will not recognize this. So many of your ancestors were already citizens before the Treaty of 1866. The documentation is very clear about that.
Absolutely. One more thing I want to add. See where they're from, Alabama? 1866, well, that tells me these folk were on the Trail of Tears. Those two folks right there. But these folk, the kids, were born in Creek Nation. Okay? Now I can go to that Parsons and Abbott census and find them on that Trail of Tears. It's an Parsons and Abbott census. You can find the people that were on the Trail of Tears in the Creek Nation. I've looked at that whole thing, studied it many times. Okay.
And Ron, just to add on that, I mean, this is kind of illegible, but this is actually says 28. So we know if he was 28 in 1860, again, you just subtract it back and get the age.
You all, it just takes a desire to get all this information.
I think that's 38. Actually.
I can't.
But go ahead.
Go to the next. Oh Lord, go to the next. Okay, this is he's actually on the 1860 census. The man, Cal Tom. Okay, I want you to see something at the bottom of this. There's 40 people on this sheet. I just cut it off. Okay, what cut and print, something, cut and paste. I'm a master at it. So at the bottom it tells his age. In 1960, he is 1860, he's 49 years old. Okay? But he was a stock raiser, such as a cattleman. Or before you was called the term cowboy, it was cow Tom. This is in my studies. All right? So let's go over his value of personal asset. $99,500. I'm gonna tell you something. It's 40 people on this whole sheet. At the bottom, they added up how much everybody owed. Altogether was $21,950. But he owed more than everybody on that sheet.
Owned, not owed.
Owned. Okay, so this tells us a lot. He's from Alabama. So I mean, he's on the free inhabited free inhabited census card. Okay, so this tells you a lot right here.
So again, if you go back to both sides of this family, my family, both sides are already free inhabitants. Cal Tom is on the Rose Jefferson side. When we looked at the Jeffersons, it's on the Simmons side. They're both free inhabitants in 1860. Yet at the time of enrollment of the Dawes roll, they all put on the Creek Freedman roll.
Let me give you a synopsis on what we talked about just now and showed you with documentation. We started with Jake. Oh Lord, no. Go to the next. Go to the next. Oh, it's not on that. It's not. Okay, we talked a little bit about John Jefferson. Okay, John Jefferson. This is his brother, full brother, same mother, same father. How do we know? How do I know? Through genealogy, you all. The documentation is out there. It's out there. Silas Jefferson, that's his roll number right here. Now, for a Creek Nation Freedman roll, at the top it says Creek Nation Freedman roll. So this is a Creek Nation Creek roll, which they say is a by blood roll because there's a blood quantum right here, one half. Look at his peers, Jeffrey McNack. What tribal town is he in? Well, let me go back to here. What tribal town is he in? Muscogee. Then you have his father's name, Jeffrey McNack. He was deceased at the time of enrollment. Betsy McNack, she was deceased, but both of their tribal towns is Tuskegee. These folks are real, true Muscogee Creek Indian. The Tuskegee people or Tuskegee Indian were lumped inside this one Muscogee Creek Nation. That's what the United States government did. But the Tuskegee people are true. I have the documents. The documents are there. They're there. He even testified that number one on Tuskegee payroll of 1895. Then oh Lord, there's something else. Yeah, it's a lot of information. Okay, it's just a lot of information. Old Creek card 3181.
What does that mean, Ron?
That Old Creek card that predates these Dawes Commission cards. There's more information on those cards. Okay? Oh man, look at just this information that's on here. Study it, search it, research it. You've got to do it.
5 minutes.
We got 5 minutes. We got 5 minutes. We got to wrap it up. We got to wrap it up. We get a couple of questions. I want to say this though, okay? When he's talking about these cards, when we first started doing our litigation against the Creek Nation in the early 2000s, they had it where you could prove your Creekness by utilizing all these other information that Ron has identified, but they just wouldn't let you if you were black. They would literally, you'd go down there and they would literally say, we just don't enroll blacks. We don't enroll the ex-slaves. And so they actually changed their law during our litigation to take out all this other information that you could prove to show who you are. They actually changed it and removed it from their code because we had exposed that they were not allowing the black Creeks to be able to utilize it.
Oh, you want to do some questions?
Yeah. I know my man right here had a question. And what was your question again, sir?
Well, I want to know how you got to the information, where the card rolls are, how you got to those records.
The land records?
Mm-hmm.
So
Not the
Ron,
land records, but the actual records where the cards are that show they are members of the Creek tribe.
Genealogy, the pedigree chart. Started with a pedigree chart and you go all the way down. If you went past 1900, you went too far because they should have, if they were born after like 1900, 1898, between 1906, they should be on the roll.
Okay, what I found was I found one side of the card, but I didn't get the other side. I got a record that showed one side, but it didn't show the second side, the back side.
You're gonna need the back side because there's a lot of information on both sides.
We don't have any more right now.
Oh, you don't have no more?
but Ron, are you asking like where do you go online? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
There is a Dawes Rose database through the Oklahoma Historical Society, right, Ron?
Yes, oh, absolutely. Oklahoma, and that's a free site. I mainly use Ancestry. You got to pay for that site, but Oklahoma History Center, Oklahoma History Center has an excellent site you can go to. Oklahoma History Center.
Just real quickly, we talked about Silas Jefferson. So explain to them how I have the same mother, same father, yet put on different roles with different blood quantums.
This man, Silas Jefferson. I'm gonna show you his Indian name right there. Before he was Silas Jefferson, he went as this right here, Okmulgee Miko. he was the Wind Clan king. Miko mean king, leader, or chief. Even mean chief. So, but this was him. This was the man right here. And guess where he's buried at right now? Biggs, Oklahoma. Right there. So he did a lot for the Creek Nation. But John Jefferson, this man, Manuel Jefferson, Mariah Noble had the same mother and father. But Silas is on the blood roll as one half. Where's John Jefferson at? His counselors, the ancestors, on the Freedman roll. They separate them like that, you all. The documents are there. We can prove that, all that stuff. But what do the Creek Nation? They just sometimes don't go by that.
And this exists in other nations too. I mean, this exists in the Cherokee, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, and the Seminole. They're all on the Dawes Road. And so you couldn't have a Greenwood, you couldn't have a Black Wall Street, you couldn't have all these black towns in Oklahoma if you didn't have all these black Indians that had already been here. Some as early as late 1820s that came across the Trail of Tears. That happened between 1820 and 1838. So I think we have time for one more question.
What was the reasoning why they split the families? Some was Freedman and some was not.
Well, again, the underlying motivation to put as many people on the Freedman Road was to be able to take land. That's the underlying motivation. But there are other reasons. Sometimes family members didn't want to come in and testify. You remember, these people didn't want to have anything really to do with the United States. So sometimes they didn't come in and testify. It may just be the clerk just made a mistake, or it may have been intentional. But the worst thing about it is a lot of our people's land was readily able to be taken away. And the land that was not taken away, when they found that you had oil on your land, they by Oklahoma law, they could appoint a guardian to you and then siphon off all your wealth. And that happened all the time also. But I know we ran out of time. So, this is one of my uncles, Legacy Perryman. He was a chief of the Creek. They were one of the last principal chiefs before they destroyed the nation with the Dawes Rolls. And as you can see, this comes from a United States Census report from 1895. So this is not something me and Ron wrote. This is what the United States wrote. The Negroes are among the earnest workers in the 5 tribes. The Creek Nation affords the best example of Negro progress. The principal chief, virtually a Negro, comes of a famous family in the Creek annals. His name is Legacy Choctaw Perryman.
You all, this stuff is documented. It's documented. So,
and this is one of the things the Creek Nation does not want people to understand. If it was not for the Black Creeks, they would not even exist today. And many of these people have this ancestry also. So, the last thing I want to say, on July 26th, Friday, July 26th, we have oral argument in front of the Muscogee Creek Nation Supreme Court in Okmulgee, Oklahoma. We need all of you there. We need all of your friends and family there. We need a packed courthouse because these people, they do not like transparency and they are corrupt. They're so corrupt that on last Monday, they changed their law to appoint 2 new non-lawyers to their Supreme Court who on record saying they don't support the Creek Freedmen to hear our case. It's completely outrageous. And we're going to fight that also. But on Friday, July 26, 2024, 10 a.m., Okmulgee, Oklahoma, we need the community to show up and just be there. You don't have to do anything. But just your presence alone will make a big difference as we try to eradicate this discrimination that's been happening for Creek Freedmen since 1979.
somebody said where
It's in Okmulgee, Oklahoma.
This is a small question. If all this is going on, why is everybody supporting the casinos?
I can't answer that. I don't think a lot of people know this. I don't think a lot of people know this information. And what does it mean to be enrolled in a nation? It means access to health care. It means access to employment opportunities. It means access to housing. It means access to education opportunities. You know, right now, if you have a child, not just college education, if you have a child at TPS, there's a program, Indian education program that gets you tutoring, books paid for, help you on your field trips. This is stuff that you're missing out on erroneously. So this is not just about our heritage, which is important. We're talking about finite resources that can change the direction of our families and our communities. Well, I know, Jasmine, I know we're over time. Thank you so much.
to everyone that participated. Thank you again to Ron Graham and attorney Damario Solomon Simmons. Please give him another round of applause. So the session has ended and we are now into our afternoon sessions. If you signed up for an interactive workshop, make sure you check in at the front. There will be another presentation in here starting at 1:30. So the next presentation in here again will be with Ron Graham, and he's doing Black Indian genealogy. It's at 1:30. And if you have any questions for the genealogists, they will be here all day, but you need to be in the interactive sessions. So if you can get in one of those, you can ask them questions. Thank you. Sorry.